We're all right. We're going live. We are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this great webinar. I'm very excited to be here. I've got Tara and Anna from OneDrop joining me here today to talk all about corporate social responsibility. Before we sort of start jumping into things and getting going, I want to give people a few minutes to kind of log in, get settled. Maybe your cup of coffee or tea or your lunch or whatever you're doing right now, in whatever time zone you're joining us from. And I just want to make sure that comments and all that stuff is working. So if you could add into the comments where you're coming from and what the weather is like in your location, that would be great. So throw them in there so we can see what's working. I always like to test technology before we get into things and make sure that we can answer people's questions. So I'll go first. So just saying, I'm out on the west coast of Canada in Victoria, BC, and it is a lovely sunny day at a temperate 22 degrees Celsius. So it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Our like major heat zone has kind of dissipated a bit, which is lovely for us. But I don't know. What's it like for you two, Tara, Anna?
I think that's the funniest thing. So over here in the east coast of Montreal, it's basically the same weather. It's a beautiful, sunny mid-20s day. I've taken the dog out for 2 walks already. It's been glorious.
That is amazing. How about you, Anna? Are you also in Montreal?
Yeah, I'm also in Montreal. So same weather. We're just a few neighborhoods apart.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice. All right. So we got someone from Mont Saint Hilaire in Quebec. Also a lovely sunny day. Great. It's great to hear. Awesome. Well, as we hear more from where people are coming from and what the weather's like there, let's get rolling, because I think we have a lot to chat about around social impact, corporate social responsibility, and also just OneDrop itself and the amazing stuff that y'all are doing out there in the world. So if you've joined these webinars before, you kind of know who I am, but quick introduction. My name is Noah Warder. I'm the head of people over here at Guusto. And I get to run these lovely webinars, and it's great because I get to talk to people like Anna and Tara every month and learn more about what they're doing and all the awesome things that they're doing for different organizations. So I'm going to pass it off to each of them to make a little introduction, because they will do a much better job than I will. So first off, let's start with you, Tara. What do you do at OneDrop? What's your role there? And one interesting tidbit about yourself.
Of course. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever everyone is. As you can see from our intro side, I am Tara Maritzer. I am the advisor for donor relations and corporate development, a very fancy sounding title for an amazing job that I love to do. And my favorite thing about what I do is making sure that anybody and everybody who interacts with the OneDrop Foundation knows how appreciated they are and what it is that's done with the great funds that are collected year after year. I have been with the OneDrop Foundation for around 3.5 years now. And my COVID hobby, I started doing little art projects with crystals and make sparkly pictures.
Well, that's super cool. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one before. That's unique. I like it. Something different.
All right. So on my side, while Tara is busy collecting funds and doing all that work that helps support the foundation, I'm on the other side of the foundation, the one that uses the money. So the International Programs Department, my role is monitoring, evaluation, research and learning manager at the OneDrop Foundation. So that means any research needs that we need for the different projects that we have, whether if it's for doing the research before a project gets into place to make sure that it's actually according to the needs and if it's relevant to the places that we're doing the work, or just measuring the results, right? Like, are we on track to the expectations that we set up at the beginning? All that measurement, I'm involved in that. So a lot of data collection, analysis, and all of that.
I love it. We got both sides of the nonprofit doing all the good things. You got the it's kind of like you're the one that's collecting the money, and as the one making sure the money is being used in the right way. So I love that we're getting both sides here.
And every foundation needs both of us.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Because you got to make sure that every dollar that you're collecting is being maximized to its utmost because you're
Absolutely.
yeah, that's amazing. That's awesome. I love that. So I know us three sort of met and chatted a little bit before we came on to this webinar and talked a little bit about what we want to talk about. But let's start things off first of just like really really high level. I know Tara, we talked a little bit about like why is corporate social responsibility and corporate social impact so important? Like why should people leaders like myself and founders and executives care about this really?
Yeah, well, to me, I think that the image of a company is greatly impacted by the perception of the people. And more these days, the perception of the world is that you need to be a good citizen, a good person. And one of the ways that we use as a metric to define a good person is what do they do to help the world beyond the purpose of making money and making your company do well, generating revenues, building your brand, like those are important. But what it is that helps to garner stronger employee engagement? What is it that helps to keep your customers loyal and create that positive perception and building your brand? And I really do believe that charity work and philanthropy is that extra bonus that the company gets. And the foundation that needs these funds to be able to do the great works creates an incredible partnership. And that's really the key point that we want to come home today, is that strategic partnerships are what really leads to having proper CSR and a longevity to it.
I like that you kind of touched on the brand aspect of it, things, right? Like it's very much like you can't just be a company that's successful in business anymore. You have to be doing more. There's actually a great study out there by Cohen Communication Engagement study from 2016 that showed that 64% of millennials won't take a job at a company if they don't feel that there's a strong sense of corporate responsibility, like corporate social responsibility. And that was 6 years ago. Just imagine how much it's like become more important now.
It grows and grows. So I have a statistic to come back at you with that. Corporate giving, so money coming from a company, has increased to 21.08 billion US dollars, and that is a 23.8% increase just over 2020. So we're talking a year behind now, but the giving has grown, and I think it is directly as a result of the pressure of people and people who are working at the companies and interacting with these companies. It's having a really nice positive impact on the philanthropic world.
I mean, that's great. It's great to see that it is having that positive impact because people do vote with their feet, and I think we saw this with the Great Resignation, Great Reshuffle, whatever you want to call it. It's got so many different names. But it's nice to see that, and like especially as like millennials and the Gen Z generations become the largest segment of the workforce now, you got to kind of like keep that a little bit more top of mind. And I know OneDrop, y'all work with so many different partners. You're kind of across industries.
Yeah,
you get a bit of a unique look into what this looks like. And so I'd love to like hear your opinion, and maybe you've got some stats around this, but like, how have you seen social impact, like a mission philosophy, what companies are actually doing, impact employee retention? Like how have you seen that? Do you have a good story around that? Something that, makes it a little bit more tangible than just like 64% of millennials won't take a job if you don't have this.
Absolutely. So when a company really has a strong social compass, when it's integrated into every tier from the top to the bottom, people feel that much stronger connection and ownership. So a good handful of OneDrop's partners give based on a percentage of their sales. So the better that the company does, the better that the charity OneDrop gets to benefit. But from having had integrated discussions with the owners or the founders or the high ups in these companies, they explain it all the way down. We've done presentations with the entire corporate team, to which the founder took over our presentation and said, there's a reason that we choose to give back. And it's because we believe, as important as our product is, that there needs to be more to it. And from connecting with the company and seeing a positive response to what we do, we can grow our company. We can give you the raises that we want to give. We can hire more people to do even bigger volumes of sales. We can promote and give you more opportunities because we've chosen to align with a charitable cause. We've chosen to help build this awareness and be able to grow in a sustainable, ethical way. More.
I love that. I love, and that kind of leads me to like another question that I have, because, during COVID and pre-COVID, and, there's been so many shifts in our society over the past few years with like Black Lives Matter, Roe versus Wade, COVID, just like all the things that have kind of come up from all of this. And so how do you talk to clients or founders or, executives and like help them kind of communicate when they start a program like this that it's actually authentic, that it's not just like a lip service thing? It's not just them being like, we're just going to write a check once a year to this thing to say that we have strong corporate social responsibility. Like, what's the difference between lip service and just writing a check and then forgetting about it, and like integrating it into your corporate culture and your your cultural DNA?
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Some people really do just want to write the check. It makes them feel better. It checks off that box. But I really do think that the true heart of it is building that partnership, that piece that helps to generate more revenue, that piece that builds the employee engagement, that creates positive perceptions. And more so that aligning with a charity helps to leave your audience with a better understanding of your brand's values because of the support to the causes that you care about, causes that you care about. And the ones that are the strongest and the kinds that really, flourish are purpose aligned. That what you're doing at your company connects with the cause that you are going to support. So, for example, in that social enterprise that I was talking about and how she was explaining to her team, they do self-care products. They make soap, they make bath bombs, they do. So, obviously, it's very connected to the WASH, which is the sector that One Drop works in, WASH standing for water, sanitation, and hygiene. And so there was an easy connection with the mission of One Drop Foundation, being that we want to ensure sustainable access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene for communities facing extreme barriers around the world. And we do that through our innovative partnerships, through our creativity, and the power of art.
I love it. I love the like connecting the product to the actual charity and the mission and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like we're partnered with One Drop. We love working with One Drop, and
we love working with you.
And thank you. And it's nice because we see it with clients every day that like, it's between us and another vendor, and it's like, well, we're going to go with Guusto because we know that like, even though that us personally aren't writing a check, every time we acknowledge and recognize an employee, there's a donation being made on our behalf to this great foundation and is helping something in the world. And so that small piece, by just us caring a little bit more and building this thing, we've actually been able to, like you said, increase our revenue, increase our sales, which also just increases our ability to give to the One Drop Foundation. And it's this really nice cyclical, like the better we do as a company, the more we get to give to this charity and support their projects and their mission in helping people across the world. What do you think? Like, we've kind of talked about why it's important and how to talk about it, but now how do you find a partner? How do you vet that partner? And I would love to hear both of your perspectives on this, because Tara, you're the one that collects the money and does like the sales pitches and the marketing and all that fun stuff. But then Anna, you're the one that's like, no, I'm going to make every dollar count. I'm going to make sure that we're transparent about it and doing all those good things.
And Anna's a great person to speak about the vetting, because One Drop, our nature is collaborative. It's one of our core values that we believe we are more powerful when we work together within our team, within our partners, that we all join forces to make a greater impact. I do it with companies and being able to leverage extra funds to be able to come in. But on the program side, which Anna's going to be able to talk about, is that we work with other organizations and foundations that have like-minded values and outcomes that they're trying to achieve. So it's definitely on both sides of the coin to vet properly and to be able to connect with the right companies and other organizations to be able to build on the good that we do. With regards to the money side and the communication side, I mean, of course, you have to go through and vet on what their current CSR or ESG stances are. Do they have any suits against them? Is there, if we connect with this partner, is there going to be negative publicity? Are we exposing ourselves to certain risks? But on the flip side, to be able to vet your partner, a charity that you want to be able to come in with that authentic voice to really be able to give the impact to your company that you need, you want to make sure that the foundation has a high level of transparency. There's several independent third-party evaluators that work in both Canada and the United States, at least that I can speak to. In Canada, Charity Intelligence is a great place, a great resource that checks on the transparency of the charity with regards to their financials, how their programs are functioning. In the United States, I believe it's called GuideStar, or Charity Navigator is another one. That's done a lot of the work for you. But you just have to find your why. Why do we do what we do? What is it that we want to be able to communicate and strengthen, and what kind of cause do we want to support?
And if I can add to what Tara was just saying, another one is called Give Well, right? So these are organizations that are going to be benchmarking different charities. And so from there, you can also see which one would you like to support, and to find the why, and going back to that, like, how do you connect on the same purpose, no, on the same goal? What companies could do is, look at the different sustainability development goals. Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs by the United Nations, and see there's 17 of them, and see which ones your company feels the most in touch with, or the most, aligned with, and that's a one way of doing about it, right? So with OneDrop, we are involved mostly in progressing SDG number 6, the one about providing water, sanitation, and hygiene to the world. But as you are doing work on SDG 6, you're actually having an impact on a variety of different SDGs. So I'm stepping ahead in part of my presentation, but I think it's just a natural way.
It is an absolute and a good metric, and a good way for someone who doesn't know too much about what kind of a cause to look into. The Sustainable Development Goals, as set out by the UN, are a really good jumping off point.
Right. So whether if it's gender equality, or if it's zero hunger, or if it's affordable clean energy, or climate action, you can choose charities that are aligned with those goals.
I love it. And I just thought of this now, and maybe we don't have an answer for this because we didn't actually talk about this when we did our prep work. But what if you're a company that has a product or a service that doesn't really align with a charity? I think of I used to work for an email marketing company. Email marketing doesn't really align with a specific charity or cause. It's about sending newsletters and coupons to people's inboxes that they generally start unsubscribing from. So if you're at an organization that may not have that kind of clear guiding principle of say you're in health and beauty products, or you're in hygiene products, or something like that, or you're a meal service, so you want to end hunger, that type of stuff. How would you go about maybe figuring out what a good partner would be? Are there certain things that do you have partners where there really is no real clear alignment between what they do and the OneDrop Foundation? How did they kind of come to OneDrop and decide that this was the partnership that they wanted, and why they wanted to support access to clean water and hygiene and sanitation?
So I will take a guess at it, because obviously it's not the place to be able to go. But I will say, from our founding, so our foundation is closely connected with Cirque du Soleil, and obviously Cirque du Soleil came before us. And while we draw an awful lot of our inspiration, our creativity from having a creative DNA, it comes from our founder who had been traveling the world and seen how many communities have had, sorry, I'm getting an echo of myself. These communities that didn't have water and were struggling in the world, he went up into space to help raise awareness to this cause. So it comes a little bit from, I guess, in that case, the person who was leading the company and the connection that they had. But I would hope that for companies that are established and have more of a collaborative environment, maybe to pull your employees. If the goal is to keep your employees engaged, then to say, what is it that causes that you support on your own? Where would you like us to be supporting? And it doesn't always have to be a company wide. So Google, for example, has set themselves a personal goal that they want to distribute $1 billion in grants and 1 million volunteer hours matched. And Google matches employee donations up to $12,000 because they're an insanely big company that has money to spare. But in that case, it doesn't have to be a top-down charitable initiative. It can be an employee-driven one where the company matches donations to any organization and can set out a handful of them that they have vetted and chosen and said, these are foundations that we know are doing great works in the world. And if you would like to go support them, we're going to help you to do that. A investment firm has us on their charity roster that several employees select us over the years, and the company gives to us because their employees have selected One Drop as a great cause, which we are, and would like to be able to go and support them.
I love it. I'm glad that you brought up the polling of employees, talking to them, seeing what's most important to them, because it's different for every single person depending on what your background is, where you're coming from, and maybe even your generation. Like, the boomer generation is probably going to have a little bit different focus than your Gen Z or your millennial generation, where they're seeing like societal shifts that are happening to them every single day, whereas boomer generation might not remember those things as much, or they're a little bit more far removed, but they have their charity of choice. I know my parents, who are part of the boomer generation, have their charities of choice. It's like 2 or 3 they give every month, 3 months, and it's never going to change. They might add one every now and then, but that's where their charitable giving goes.
Yeah.
Whereas I think I'm a little bit more flavor of the month type of deal, of where I'll be like, oh, that's really important, I'll send some money to that. And I have a couple that we give to on a regular basis, but then I'll be more open to spreading out my charitable giving across different organizations.
So I'll flip it back to you. Do companies that you interact with, do you see other charities? Does that encourage you to be able to connect with them? Because I've bought so many things from this company. I love what they do. They must support a great place. Let me go see what that's about.
Definitely, 100%. I mean, I will say that my purchasing decisions are, I think I'm at the point in my life where I'm like, I will go buy from this company because I know that my money going to them will have a positive impact somewhere else. I always look at Patagonia as one of those good examples of
a very good one. They're one of the first big charitable companies too.
Yeah, 1% for the planet. I know that the products that they're producing are not being made in some sweatshop and God knows where. And the quality of the product is just going to be that much higher. So instead of buying something that I have to renew every year and replace, I can buy a jacket from them and know that it'll last me for 5, 10, 15 years. So I think I'm at the point in my life where I have the privilege to also spend more money on those things, and just also think about it. But I know I don't know if you've ever heard of this. There was a program that was started, I want to say up in Canada, called Meal Share. I don't know. They basically partner with restaurants, and for every meal purchased at that restaurant that's part of the Meal Share program, the restaurant will donate a meal to the local food bank or shelter. And so it was, you would see the meal share logo at all these different restaurants. And if it's like you're designing between two restaurants and one, you can go and also donate a meal to somebody else in need, or the other one where you're not, chances are you'll probably go to the one that where you're like, I'll get a meal, I get to support this local business, and they're on turn going to support somebody else as well.
Yeah, that wonderful chain.
Yeah.
And it just keeps growing.
And if I can add something about the idea of like polling the employees to see what charity at the end to donate, I think it's the value of that. It's in the process itself of, not just like, oh, because you want to figure out which charity, but like the process of them voting for it. You're gonna create that engagement.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, oh, I want this, and so. And this is maybe I'm gonna do like a little segue. That's very much in line with what the One Drop Foundation does. So we have an approach. It's called social art for behavior change. And so just to give an example, if we're trying to promote hand washing in a community, let's say in Colombia, we're going to be collaborating with an artist. And instead of the artist painting a mural that's going to be about hand washing, the artist's job is going to be to collaborate with the community, bring them together, make them participate into creating that mural. So at the end, what you have is this mural where the community members go walk by and they're like, I made this, I own this, this is my creation. And so maybe in here as well, if the employees choose their own charity, it's gonna have that engagement.
Yeah,
for sure.
There's lots of types of corporate philanthropy. Matching gifts like that is definitely a really popular one to go forward with.
I love it. And I think that kind of like it segues a little bit more in, and I think you already kind of answered it a little bit of like talk to your employees and see what they want to do. But like how do you keep employees engaged with a corporate social responsibility program? Because like with any program that anybody on the people team or the founding team will roll out, you usually get this nice like people love it and it gets utilized and then it starts to slow down. How do you keep that maybe not continually going up, but like at least staying at a nice sustainable level? Like what do you tell your clients, your partners? How do you work with them to make sure that their teams are always fully engaged in the program and are very excited about it?
Yeah. Well, I generally having companies that are showing a strong sense of corporate responsibility just gives positive perceptions across the board, especially now in terms of like supporting One Drop. You're connecting and being able to help the people that are the most vulnerable in the world, which Anna will talk about too. But making sure that the values are aligned puts you in the best place to be able to keep and attract talent. Working with your charitable partner is really the way to continue the engagement. So when a company comes to us, if in the fledgling stages of our engagement and they want to connect with their employees first and foremost, we have several webinars and interactive workshops that we do with their employees to be able to have them fully adopt the charity. They won't all know the One Drop Foundation off the cuff, but we can introduce ourselves in an exciting and engaging way. And when we continue to talk and more, and Anna will show the impact of what being connected to the One Drop Foundation is doing for what is it, 1.7 million people? Is that right, Anna?
Mm-hmm.
That's a really big thing to be able to be connected to, something that is bigger than yourself, and just continuing to dive down and remind the employees that you are working here and we are glad to have you. And moreover, you are part of something that is bigger than us and bigger than yourself. Were you there when we did our Guusto presentation last year?
I was just going to mention
that's it. How did you feel about that?
It was great. It was great to see because it's kind of this nebulous thing like, oh, we gave this many dollars, we gave this many we helped this many projects. And it's kind of nebulous and it's hard to connect to it from like, I'm here in my home office type of deal. But then, like you said, you get to go through the report, you get to see what happens, you get to have like yourself and another member of the One Drop team kind of talk through the impact and share those stories from people who are benefiting from these programs. And I think that's the key, is like that story, that personal story of somebody and how the program helped them is so powerful. And we talk a lot about this at Guusto, of just like, why is employee engagement so important? Because there's that personal aspect of it, of like you're helping somebody feel better. And it's one of the reasons we partner with OneDrop. It's like, we think it's so important for people to feel better at work and be recognized for work. We also think it's really important to provide the basic necessities that people need across the world, because they're not even going to be able to go to work if they can't even get access to these such necessary things. Yeah. And like a little bit of history about Guusto, we used to be like an app to give drinks and wine and meals to people in restaurants. And so it was sort of the one drink for one drink type model. And now it's evolved into so much more, which is very exciting.
Yeah. I love getting to see the evolution of Guusto and getting to come along for the ride.
Yeah. And it's like we said, like, and we talk about this at our all hands, of like the more success we see as a company, the more impact we can have out in the world in two ways. We get to make people's lives better at work, and we get to support OneDrop in a more meaningful way. And that's a powerful message that we like to tell our employees and our clients and our prospects. And I think that's just like what you said, it helps keep people engaged when you keep telling that story and show the impact of it.
Yes. Communicating your why. Why do you do what you do? And focusing on not just what and how, but that strong connection, and the storytelling for sure means that much more.
I love it. I love it. And then I would just love to get both of your opinions on this, because I think it's important. But what makes a successful corporate social responsibility program? Like, how do you measure success? Because it's going to, smaller companies aren't going to be able to donate the same amount of money as like the RBCs or the Amazons or the Googles of the world. So what makes a successful social responsibility program, and how do you kind of like translate that and communicate it to the team, both at the smaller organizations, but also the bigger organizations? It's almost harder at the bigger organizations, even if they have more money to kind of throw around.
Would you like me to start, Anna, or do you want
Yes,
to jump
please.
in on that?
Yes, please.
So my opinion on it is that when you're taking part in literal life-changing projects, you're helping to improve the way that you're perceived by every different community and audience that you interact with. And I think that the metric is incredibly difficult to measure, because it's very slow moving of that needle. But as you continue to work hard to make your company do that little extra better for the world, I think that the snowball effect builds and builds, and you'll be able to finally see that, oh, the Cirque du Soleil, they're the OneDrop Foundation. That's connected and a strong association, and gives positive positive feelings when you think about that brand and that cause. Maybe Anna, you want to talk about like what kind of measurements that a CSR program might look for in the charity's impact?
Sure. So some of the measurements that Charity Intelligence and GiveWell look for is like sense to the cause, no? So financial transparency, like Tara mentioned earlier, the quality of the reports, no? That's one. Actually, OneDrop just launched its impact report of 2021, right? And so hopefully we already have like 4 stars out of 5 in Charity Intelligence, but hopefully with this report next year, when they do the benchmarking again, we're gonna gain our 5th star.
Yeah.
And so I'm not super familiar with like the metrics of corporate social responsibility, but essentially, like, if you want to look for a charity, it would be like those, like financial transparency, the fact that they're measuring outcomes instead of like outputs, just like how much evidence they're building.
Yeah, outcomes instead of outputs is a really good distinction. That it's not just we've done, the things that we've said, but because we've done this, look what the success is. And that only happens because of the support of partners like your company, or, Jane and John Doe of the street. Everybody has a piece of this pie.
I like that. I like the output versus outcomes. Like it's really easy to just push money out and do things, but it takes a lot more to follow through and create sustainable programs that, you know, will last past the partnership with whatever charity or organization.
Yeah. And the measurement of that is also very complicated. That's where I'm in it. But like, yeah, building the evidence. Organizations often don't spend enough money into like the resources of like what is it that you're learning and how are you actually like measuring the results that you're achieving.
I love it.
So sometimes they might be doing great things, but they might not be like capturing it. And so in the end, they don't. Charity Intelligence or GiveWell might not be able to capture that.
Interesting. That's interesting because, like, when you're a charity or a nonprofit organization, you're putting so much into like the programs and partnerships. Sometimes you forget that you need to also put a little bit into the measuring of what you're doing as well, and then not just measuring it, but then reporting it and making it very easily accessible for your donors.
Yes, making the content meaningful.
I
Which I think is a great jumping off point that we have a wonderful little video that I'd like to share that just gives a little wink into what the One Drop Foundation does. And then Anna can be able to deep dive into the outcomes that One Drop has had in 2021.
I love it. I'm very excited.
This is a tribute to the power of art and the positive impact it has on the world. Art is universal. Access to safe water, on the other hand, is not. At the One Drop Foundation, we ensure sustainable access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene all around the world. And with our partners, we do it through art and emotions. Art is at the core of our approach. It is present in the way we think, in the way we feel, and in the way we take action for access to water. As global cause partner of Cirque du Soleil, we see art as a tool that fosters communities' empowerment and skills. Because with art, we speak to emotions, to the heart. And emotions make us accomplish the impossible. They break down barriers. They feed motivation. Only your heart can make you jump from a 50-foot high platform. Only your heart can make you change deeply rooted behaviors for healthier ones. Let's recognize the impact of art and of behavior change as the missing link to sustainable water projects. Because we, people, communities, NGOs, governments, corporations, spectators, acrobats from Cirque du Soleil, actors from India, painters from Latin America, performers from Africa or Northern Canada, teenagers, mothers, doctors, donors. We are all artists. This is a tribute to the power of art as a vital force driving action. Powerful enough to change lives. At the One Drop Foundation and at Cirque du Soleil, we turn water and art into action.
That was great. I haven't seen that one yet. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
How do you feel?
It did, yeah. I'm like a little emotional. Makes me feel good. Makes me feel that I'm glad that we're partnering with One Drop.
It's a very powerful video. I've watched it at least a dozen times, and I feel it in my heart every time when the clown sticks his tongue and is being silly. When we go through the connection in the story and about art talking to your emotions and being able to change these deeply rooted behaviors for the better and for long-term sustainable change.
I love it. And now, Anna, you're going to share with us a little bit of the report and kind of like what One Drop is doing. I'm excited to see that. As we're kind of going through that, anyone who's watching right now, throw your questions into the comments if you have specific questions for Tara and Anna, or questions about corporate social responsibility, or if this is something that you're looking into. Let us help answer those questions. And as someone who with a company has been doing it for some time, maybe I can help answer. And we've got two experts who get to do this every single day and work with a medley of different organizations as well. So don't be afraid to ask your questions. I will turn it over to you, Anna.
All right, so I don't know in the audience who knows One Drop and who doesn't, but essentially a little bit of a brief about the foundation. Um, we support projects that improve access to water, sanitation, and hygiene in low income settings. We work in 11 last year. We worked in 11 different countries around the world, helping financially 13 organizations who are the ones leading the implementation of those projects. Because we're based in Montreal, no? And so, in addition to financing them, we give a lot of technical support for them to implement those projects in line with an approach that is like the social art for behavior change approach, because we really believe that once the projects that improve access to safe water, sanitation, and hygiene, um, the results of those, like all the benefits that you get, whether if it's having better health, having better gender equality, all of those benefits can last longer if you also have a component that is like participatory, engaging with the communities, that changes behaviors, such as like hand washing with soap, or like paying for the service of water, the tariff. Anyway, so that's very briefly like what we support. To give you, I'm showing the screen right now. It's the impact report of 2021 that was just launched. So this gives you a little bit of a scale, no, of our reach. So last year, we impacted about 500,000 people, which adds to a cumulative number of, since the foundation started in 2017, of a million points, 1.7 million people around the world. We currently have a commitment. Once our current projects end, we will be able to reach 2.7 million people. And yeah, so like I said, when we mention that we have impacted people, it means that these people have now better access to, whether if it's access to water in their households, or sanitation in their households, or a hygiene facility, so like a hand washing station, either in their households or in their healthcare facilities or in their schools. And not only they've received that, like, let's say, infrastructure piece, but our projects are super collaborative. We work on a systems level, right? Like, it's not just like, oh, new water pump here, use it. There's like a whole system behind it of like strengthening the permanent institutions that are going to be providing those services long term. And a big part of our projects are also this component of encouraging behavior change, right? So it's one thing that you have a new water tap in your house, but another thing is that you actually use it to wash your hands, which is going to actually prevent, the the infectious diseases and all that. So they really need to go hand in hand, like all these different components. So that is to say that those people not only receive the infrastructure, but we're also engaged in very participatory processes that are creative and artistic, such as like the mural, example that I gave at the beginning. And well, I'll send the link of the impact report if any of you would like to see it. But what we wanted to put forward is how, with SDG 6, which is the one that we are working on, right? So the one about clean water and sanitation. It's such a basic human need that once you have that, you have the potential for unlocking other SDGs like gender equality, quality education, climate resilience, that if you don't have water, you cannot progress towards them, right? So just to give you an example, when water access is far away from home, we know that those who carry the burden of fetching water away, fetching water, far away from home, it's women and girls. around the world, very most likely. And so what does that happen? Those women and girls might be missing schools. They're missing a bunch of opportunities for them to like participate in the economy, for their own leisure, for all these things. And so that's like a easy link to make, no? Freeing their time for that once they have better access to water. Another one is just because of menstruation and pregnancy, women have specific needs, right? Specific needs for hygiene, specific needs for at the healthcare facility, right? They might be more at risk of infections. So that's why we also work in healthcare facilities. It's maybe some people here might be surprised to realize that a lot of healthcare facilities in the world don't have running water. So you can imagine, like, people arrive at a healthcare facility and leave more sick than when they came in, or it prevents even people to seek care because they know they might catch an infection there. That's a gender equality piece. Another example is for schools, right? If there's no toilets at a school, it might be preventing, again, maybe most likely girls to attend, no? Because if they're menstruating, they might not, they might skip school. So yeah, toilets in schools also super important. And just like a last example, because I don't know how much more time we have, climate action, and in particular, climate resilience. This is putting a lot of stress in all the other SDGs, right? Like with climate, we have extreme weather events that are becoming more intense and more frequent. And so any progress that you might be doing towards SDG 6, right? Like getting all that infrastructure and making people, do behaviors. Once you have a flood, boom, maybe your septic tanks are like overflowed, and now like people shouldn't be drinking that water anymore, or so it really sets back everything. It's a major risk, but at the same time, once you have access to water, you are better prepared for those events, if that infrastructure is like well built and all enough, and if the permanent institutions are able to bounce back and respond to, let's say, a flood or a drought. Once you have more water storage capacity, let's say, or the water is closer to home, you might be more resilient in to respond to an extreme weather event. And yes, maybe just to show you, we were talking about outcomes, no? One that I feel particularly proud about is this one over here. It's an outcome. It's a behavioral outcome. So, like I said, we do a lot of like hygiene promotion, and so this one we saw in one of our projects, between baseline and midline. So baseline is like, what was the state of the situation before the project started? We did a survey, like household survey, to a representative sample. And when I mean representative, I mean like statistically probabilistic sample, going to like thousands of households. And we measured how many people are actually washing their hands using a proxy measurement. But it increased by 24 percentage points. I forget exactly. I think it was at 20%, and now it's like close to 50. And so that's huge. I feel very proud about that one. There's a lot of measurement just to get like that data in. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Maybe Tara, would you like to talk about this one? Or I can talk about it.
I think that you can
Okay.
definitely continue, because that's a great point, that from your reporting that we've been able to even calculate this.
Yeah. So the finance team actually helped us calculate with this, but essentially Tara's team, right, and the fundraising team, they do a lot of effort into trying to build partnerships to pool financial resources together, no? And so that instead of one project, being financed by a couple of partners, we really believe that in this like leverage leveraging other financial other donors together, and we take care of that in big part, no. So searching that extra financing, and so each $1 donated to the One Drop Foundation unlocks $7 in actual funding, which goes into our projects. And so that's also another good reason to partner with us, because we're gonna go and look for those extra dollars.
Yes, which goes back up to the top when we started talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, the last one that Anna didn't get to get
Yes.
to. And
Yes.
to me, the most important part in our work is SDG 17 and partnerships, because more important in our work is everybody's role in it. We know that we can't achieve 1 through 16 without 17 to strengthen international partners for sustainable development, because while the goals are really important, the only way to reach them is to do it together.
So can you two do, like, I had never heard of, I'm going to be perfectly honest, I had never really heard of the sustainable goals from the UN before. I mean, maybe I saw a press release of it at some point, but it floated out of my head. Can you, I remember when we were talking, you showed me the wheel of all of them. Can we take a quick look at that? Just because, like, I'm sure I'm not the only one, I mean, maybe I am, that was ignorant of what
Put
this
it in the chat, friends.
But I just thought, like, I think this is really amazing, and we talked about it a bit about, like, vetting your corporate partner, your sustainable partner, or your charity that you want to go through, and which one of the goals they are focused on, or goals is a, like, multiple. And so I think just, like, looking at this, like you said, Anna, and, like, seeing what resonates the most with your cultural DNA, your corporate sort of mission and vision, and going to that. And I think there's so many different things here that people can look at and kind of get behind. But I'd love to just, like, we've got about, let's say like 2 or 3 minutes left, just to, like, chat a little bit about that.
Sure. So the UN Development Goals were set up in 2015, and they were a continuation of the Millennial Development Goals, which were previous goals that were before. And essentially what these goals are trying to bring together is all the different UN member states and essentially, like, humanity to be aligned into what prosperity and peace would look like in the world. And so, and yeah, for humans and for the planet. and so you have 17 different ones. But what's important to also think about is that all of these goals are interlinked. They're not, like I said, when you're working with clean water and sanitation, you're actually also impacting, gender equality, and you can do that by also partnering with, like, the North and the South and different actors. So you're also actually working with, SDG 17, which is, like, here at the top. So it's not just looking at them in silos, but also the interlinkages between them. And anyway, each SDG also has targets under it. So anyway, there's, like, a full on list. There's also, like, methods of measuring them. There's different entities in charge of tracking global progress towards them. For example, for us, like, it has helped us measure progress on SDG 6, according to those, like, global definitions of what like, improved water service means. Like, what does that actually mean? Like, oh no, there's, like, a specific definition for that, and that translates into in a question in a household survey that actually measures the continuity of the water and the quality of it and how long, like, all those things.
I think that's really technical. I mean, I think that's really cool because, like, I mean, you often see different charities and organizations kind of talking about their impact and the things that they're doing. But it's good to know that if they're using this model and tying things back to this, that there's actual hard definitions that they're, like, using as the benchmark of, like, I can say for certainty that our impact is X because I'm using the definition set up by the UN, instead of, like, maybe another organization that's not using this can just kind of maybe willy-nilly say that their impact is X, based off of their own definition. And so I think it's really cool of like, if you're vetting those partners, this is a great framework to know that they are, using a standard, like a global standard that is being that was built for them. They're not building it themselves for their own sort of definitions and capabilities.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, that's amazing. Thank you for reviewing all this. I mean, I learned a lot just having this conversation again. I mean, I had to learn some new things again. And I hope everyone watching learned a lot. And I just want to say thank you to Tara and Anna for giving us your time. Thank you to everyone for joining us. I hope you all learned some things. And if you're interested in corporate social responsibility programs, please, you can reach out to the OneDrop Foundation. Yeah. We're dropping emails and LinkedIn's into the comments, but you can also, just reach out, go to the OneDrop page, check it out. I'm sure there's some emails and links there on connecting with folks. Yeah, I can't say how much we love working with OneDrop. So you have one testimonial from a company right here saying they're great to work with. You should definitely partner with them. They've been a great partner to Guusto since our inception for many years. So if you're looking for a good partner, here's one to do it.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Noah.
Thanks,
great.
everyone.
Thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope that you
Yes,
had a good time. Well worth your afternoon.
Yeah.
Or morning.
And whatever your time zone is.
Whatever your time zone is.
And so we'll follow up in the email with a link to the impact report from OneDrop and some resources, as always, and a recording of this session. So, you can share it around, share it with your team internally, and, check out that impact report, because it's very interesting. I've read it a couple times. We've shared it internally in our organization, and people love being able to see the impact that they have every day. So thanks again, everyone, and look out for those emails, and we hope to see you next month at our next webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.